Welcome to another episode of an intimate conversation with women of color. I am your host, Deneen L. Garrett, and today's guest is Ashley AsShire. She is a director of student affairs at an R1 institution in the Northeast and an adjunct professor in the university's College of Education. When she's not working with college students, she leads a different classroom as the founder of the podcast and lifestyle brand Schoolin Life. High achieving professional women hire Ashley when they are ready to make more money and have more impact at work. Ashley, tell us more about you.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. And as a woman of color, this is my community, my audience. And so I'm so excited to share my work with your audience. And what you described in my bio is spot on. I am a career development strategist for professional women in corporate, nonprofit, and educational leadership. And I help high achieving women make more money and have more impact at work, leveraging the skills, talents, credentials, and degrees that they already have to get what they want out of work.
That's awesome. And you know what, it ties in nicely with the conversation that I was having last night. And so it's kind of picking up. So part of the conversation I had last night was planning your quit day. And so our conversation can kind of even pick up from there as far as planning when you're going to quit whatever it is that you're quitting and when you're ready to make that more money and have more impact. So I'm definitely, open to having more money and definitely always open to having more impact. So looking forward to this conversation. So to become a high achiever, one must use their voice. Why else is it important for professional Black women to have a platform to use our voices?
What we say matters. We have a lot of knowledge. We have a lot of skill sets. We have a lot of expertise. We have a lot of innovation to add into the marketplace. And if we don't advocate for ourselves, if we don't speak up, if we don't share the great work that we've done, the great contributions that we have, our industries, our organizations, the community will go without. And so it is real work to advocate for yourself. It is real work to clearly articulate your value and your expertise in the marketplace, but it's work that's worth doing because our contributions are immense.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I actually just started watching and I'm probably only about 10 minutes in. And whatever of this you want to talk about, feel free, or just use general references. But I think it's called The Class or something like that. And it's with, I think it's Sandra Oh.
Oh, yes, I watched the series. It's
okay,
great.
So I'm only like 10 minutes in. However, when I was reading what it was, or let me take it back. When I saw some of the comments on social media, I know that, it was a Black woman and they were saying it accurately, depicts experiences of people of color in education.
Sure. Yeah. It's called The Chair and it's featuring Sandra Oh, and I love her. I'll watch her do anything, literally. But yes, in addition to my work in building Mentor Me, a career development company, I also am a senior director of student affairs at a large Research One institution and an adjunct professor in the College of Education. And absolutely the experiences of Black women in education as administrators or of Black women in the academy, I thought the show really got right. The show really described, someone who's brilliant, someone who's knowledgeable, and someone who isn't even necessarily doing work that's tied to their identity, their identity as a Black woman, but it's their work is still constantly devalued, not seen as relevant as their peers. They're doing things that are like really engaging students, things that are relevant today, things that really make students contemplate the text and contemplate the work and really want to engage, but that work is not seen as scholarly as, someone who's just, telling them to read and write. And so I thought the show absolutely got it right. And I think that, the frustration, right, of so many high achieving women, whether they're in the academy or not, is that I'm doing the work, right? I'm doing the work. I'm working really hard. I'm putting my everything into this, and I'm not seen by my organization. I'm not recognized by my organization. I'm not paid well by my organization. And the message that I think it's really important for high achieving women to know is that hard work is not a career success strategy. Like, working hard is great, and you should be a high achieving person, right? You should be someone who does things in excellence, but being a hard worker is not high level career development strategy, because it's not enough. You need, and not only do you need to be able to do your work well, you also need to be able to articulate the value of your work, and making sure that you're working for organizations who value that articulation, right? They see you as a valued contributor. And I think so often women experience a lot of frustration and cognitive dissonance, and honestly anger, righteous anger, because they're working so hard and they're not being recognized. And I really want to invite women to stop burning yourself out, stop wearing yourself out, and instead of just putting your head down and working hard, being much more strategic about the ways in which you approach work, so that you can see the value in your own life and career.
Absolutely. And I'm going to kind of address that. And then I do want to go back to the show, because there was a scene that I did see, and I think it's just so representative of our experiences, right? But what you just talked about, articulating your value, is so very important, because many of us are, their heads down, putting in the work, doing extra, and then looking up and trying to understand, well, why is that not getting us further? And I listened to another podcast, and I can't think of who the podcaster was, but they had someone on who was talking about the difference between a man and a woman. So it's all around the whole thing, whereas men, they may have, like, they can check 3 of the 10 boxes for a job opportunity, and they'll go for it. Whereas the women typically, oh no, I have to check all 10 before I go for it. And also along those same lines, when the men are in a job, they'll ask their leader, like, hey, here are these 10 things, but which 3 are you really concerned about? Which 3 are like most important to you? And those are the only 3 that they'll focus on. Whereas again, typically with women, we're going to focus on all 10. And again, look up and understand, well, why did he get further? Why did he get promoted? And so on and so forth. Or even like, man, I'm picking up that person's slack. But, what are your thoughts around that? Like, do you experience that? Have you experienced that? Are those some of the conversations that you're having?
Sure. In my career development program, it's called the Mentor Me Accelerator. It's an 8-week career advancement program for professional women. And in session 4, I teach my mentees how to job search. A lot of adults feel like they know how to job search. Like, I know how to look for a job. I know the core tenets of that. I know how that's supposed to go. But what I think a lot of people don't recognize is that job searching is a skill. It's a skill, and you have to learn how to do it well. Otherwise, you experience a lot of overwhelm and a lot of burnout and a lot of frustration. And one of the targeted strategies that I teach in session 4 is the 70% rule, which speaks to what you shared, that when you're looking at a job posting, you should at minimum be able to say that you can confidently demonstrate at least 70% of the competencies on the role. If you hit the 70% rule, I typically encourage my mentees to apply. If they're, 69% or below, like, let's have a conversation about it. And if they're 100%, don't apply at all, because you're overqualified for the role and you probably should be doing something else. And so, yeah, I think that what you have previously heard is accurate, that too often women feel like if they don't know how to do everything on a job posting, they shouldn't otherwise apply, or the only job postings that are good for them are the ones where they know how to do everything. And that's actually not a rule that I subscribe to at all. And then as it relates to, what to do once you get in the role, in session 7 of the Mentor Me Accelerator, I teach my mentees how to manage up, how to lead from where they are, and how to have targeted and specific conversations with their supervisors based on their supervisor's archetype. We archetype out their supervisors to identify how to have conversations with different type of leaders across different types of industries. It's very targeted. It's a well mapped out process that gives my mentees the benefit of the doubt. So they're no longer going into a conversation with the organizational leader blind, but they know exactly what makes that organizational leader tick, and they know what to bring to the conversation, what questions to ask, and ways to position their expertise to to get what they want out of those organizational leaders. So absolutely, those are things that I teach in my career development programs.
Yeah, and those are some definitely valuable. In going back and speaking more to the articulating your value, also along with job searching, is that you don't have to have had a role in whatever that thing is to be able to say you have that experience, that expertise. And that's another thing that people don't think about. They don't tap into, well, remember when you volunteered and you led that project, you had a team of people. They don't necessarily tap into that. So I definitely want our audience to know that your skills go beyond a job that you actually had, right? A title, but it goes, look into, if you're able to speak to how, the demonstration of whatever that thing is, then that's what they're looking for, right?
I would agree. You want to leverage your strengths across multiple modalities, right? So it shouldn't just be your last 2 jobs or the work that your degree is in. You want to leverage your expertise around multiple modalities. I would agree.
Yeah. And so going back to the show, so the scene that I was looking at, and this is pretty much where I had stopped and had to work away. So it's the Black professor. And so white gentleman, older gentleman, he's on the list to be cut from what I understand. And so he is in his in the auditorium, and somebody walks in and asks if it's a certain class course, and it's not. And so you look around a room and there's less than 5 people in a room. Then he happens to leave, and here's the students leaving another space, and the room was full of students, right? And so he goes in and he's talking to the Black professor. And they're having a conversation. And so afterwards, she's talking to the chair, and the chair recommends that, why don't you like co-lead the course, like, kind of collaborate, kind of share. And so now the next scene is she's talking to the students and she's actually amongst them, whereas he is up on a podium away from them. And then he kind of just cuts in and says that she joined his class. And that right there, it just spoke volumes to me about a lot of our experiences, right? She was the one, she commanded the attention of the students. She had the numbers, and she agreed to partner with him, and he took over. So in situations like that, experiences like that, what are you telling telling other Black women on how to use their voice, whether you're talking to them, as an educator, as a podcast host, or as a mentor? What are some of the things that you would tell a person who's having that or a similar experience?
What you've described is gaslighting 101. So gaslighting is described as someone sort of publicly violating you and calling it another name. So, public, disrespect, disregard, dismissal, usurping is what he specifically was doing. So like sort of claiming something was his when it wasn't. This is common in the workplace, unfortunately, but it's not okay. And I think a lot of professional women sort of take a like it is what it is mentality, like put my head down, it is what it is, and it's not what it is. Like that's not what it is. You don't have to go through that. You don't have to be engaged in that way. You can absolutely advocate for yourself if you experience that. But I think the first thing you have to do is sort of recognize it. And there's a cycle of gaslighting where the first thing you're like, wait, did that happen to me? Like, did he just say,
right?
Like, what is even going on here? So like you have to kind of recognize it first. But then when you do recognize it, I think the challenge in addressing is that there's often a power dynamic, which was certainly true in this case, right? So this was a person who was going to write her a tenure evaluation. And so, challenging that person could be difficult. And so in general, I would recommend that my mentees challenge, right? So manage up, and that's a strategy I teach in session 7. But one of the core tenets of that is to get really clear on expectations. So get really clear on exactly what the expectations of said relationship are. Like ask them what they need from you to be successful in the relationship, share what you need, and come to some shared understanding. But in this situation where there's a pretty significant power dynamic, I would have really pressed on the chair to do that clarifying work, because it is work, right? And it's labor that is unpaid. And so I would have really invited, and the chair is being paid to manage, university politics, like that's what they do. And so I would have really invited the chair into a conversation about like helping the faculty, the more senior faculty, understand what it is and what it absolutely is not, so that we can have some clarity in our working relationship. I would have invited a mediation into that, or for her to directly clarify that situation. And if you haven't watched The Chair, I would definitely recommend it. It is a workshop in a lot of what not to do at work.
Right? Because like I said, I only watched a few minutes and, I took that away. And I want to also point out what you just said. What you just said is that the chair should have spoken to him. I was actually ready for you to say what she should have said to the woman, not to say that she needed to correct her, but giving her some tips. But I absolutely love that you said she should have spoke to him. And I think that we need to get more into that zone to whereas, yes, speak to that person. Not me. Why are you talking to me? Talk to them. They need to understand what's going on here, the dynamics, etc. So some women do not recognize the power of their voices, and I'm sure in your vast work that you're coming across these women. And I like to liken using your voice as speaking, writing, acting, however you want to express yourself. So again, similarly to what we were just talking about, whether it's in a classroom or beyond, what do you tell Black women to help them recognize the power of their voices?
I think you first have to recognize what you're good at and what you're not good at and what you value. So no use in being loud and wrong. So make sure that you can clearly distill what you're good at. We all have gifts and talents and are skilled in things, whether it's through our education or through refinement of said skill set. So really get clear on what you're good at. Also get really clear on what you're not good at, and stop lying and saying I'm a perfectionist and I'm good at everything. I'm just so flexible. It's not true. It's dishonest. And when we start to pretend about like that we're good at everything and we can do everything, we start to dilute our actual expertise. So I really want the first step in using your voice and speaking up and advocating for yourself is to be really clear on what you're good at, and also be really clear on what you're not good at. And then from there, you want to then match that skill set, right? That skill articulation, which is what you're good at, your weaknesses. You want to weaken your weaknesses by like identifying what you're not good at and developing mitigation strategies. And then you want to think about your values. I define values as personal compass. It helps guide your decision making. So for me, for example, I'm very good at career development and providing women with direction and support to advance their career. I'm not very detail oriented. I'm much more of a futuristic and visionary thinker. If you required me to edit a Word document or plan the details for some very specific thing, there would be lots that is left out. And I value ease. It's one of my top values. I don't do hard things. I can do hard things. Shout out to Glennon Doyle, but I work to avoid doing hard things. I like to live a life of ease. So what that means is that I hire help, right? Yes. I have a virtual assistant. I have a copy editor. I have a graphic designer and video editor. Those people are very detail oriented. It's required for their work. Because I value ease, I'm sure if I put my head down and really tried, I could, edit my emails or, learn how to edit a video. Yeah. But that's outside of my skill set. So I hire help, which creates ease in my life, which is aligned with my values and helps me focus on providing a high level of career development to my mentees. And so the best way for you to use your voice is to be in alignment with your strengths, your weaknesses, and your values.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with the weaknesses, do you recommend that, and you just talked about how you kind of like farm things out, et cetera, but you said something a little bit earlier and I didn't quite catch it, but it's, recognizing your, what you're good at and what you're not so good at. Do you recommend that we spend any time in improving upon what we're not the best at, or just really focus on what you're good at and then hire somebody or get a volunteer, intern, whatever, to do the other stuff?
I would say, if I'm talking to women of color typically are very high achieving. They're already operating at 114% on most everything that they're doing. There's no reason for you, baby girl, to spend a whole lot of time on what you're not good at, because most of the things, like, you're mostly good at most things. So release the urge to do so many things and niche down into very specific thing in which you can drive optimal results. Too often we want, and I'm sure, other guests have talked about this on your show, or you even talked about this, Superwoman cape syndrome. We want to put a cape on our back and we literally want to do everything, which leads to a high level of burnout and exhaustion and overwhelm. I want to invite women of color to release the cape, let it go, and really focus on what you're good at. There are things in which you are naturally gifted in, things in which you have refined through your education, training, and skill set. The things that you are not good at, sure, you could improve upon them, but why? When there's so many other people who already are skilled, release the need to do everything well, focus on what you already do well, refine that and refine your articulation of that so you can advance in your life and in your career. I
love all of that. Everything that you just said, it's something that, I've been working on lately, right? So you mentioned video editing, I'm in the market for, okay, who can help me with this? Because it's not something that it's a skill of mine. Again, like you said, I can take the time to figure it out. I probably will spend a little bit of time on it, but I don't choose to do that. I want to use my time and energy, most importantly, on the other stuff, the creative stuff, the stuff that just really comes naturally and that I want to level up on, as opposed to necessarily looking to learn other skill sets. Because another thing that it does is it keeps me from all of those other things, right? It keeps me from those things like you described as ease, things of ease. It keeps you from that. And while you were talking, I was thinking about Rick Ross, and they were saying how, Rick Ross, he has this huge, estate and all these cars, but he still mows his own lawn. So some people are looking at like that. Wow, cool. But here's the deal. He is losing X dollar amount, right? He's wasting his time, if you will, because, if we were to look at how much money he makes, let's say on a per minute, per hour basis, he's losing that when he's doing his lawn, right? So whereas, oh, wow, that's so cool. Look at him. He's staying humble. Okay, but he's also wasting money or, losing out. He could be spending that time on something else, on some talent, making money, et cetera, whatever it is. And so we should look at things that way as well. When we are spending that time on something that we're not the best at, that requires more of our time, it's taking us away from other things. So thank you for everything that you said around that.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. I think that it's challenging for people. It's even challenging for me sometimes to really niche down and get really specific because we're afraid of being inauthentic, right? We're afraid of losing our audience. We're afraid that, people won't get us, that we'll be too specific. But it's, and I think there's a lot of rhetoric around like 7 streams of income and, you got to do this and you got to build and, that's fine. But why don't you get one stream of income really solid, right? Like before you start to like, oh, well, in addition to building my career, I also want to be an entrepreneur and I also want to host women's empowerment events. And I also are you making enough to care for your family, care for yourself? Well, can you take, a week off without fear of of losing your employment? Like, are you operating in excellence in your work, right? Like, there's just so many questions that I want to invite women to ask themselves before they sort of branch off into 1 million different things.
Absolutely.
I think that we want to really master and niche down into doing one thing in excellence before we branch off into others.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. And that's the direction that I'm going in as well. Like I, took off the December to not have guests so that I can really focus on what direction do I want to take the show in? What do I want 2022 to look like? And so I'm pausing, kind of pulling back and really getting, reflective of what it is that I want, and to take the time to do that, right? So, building a team, if you will, who can I have doing the editing? Who can I have doing the things that I either don't want to do, don't do as well, that will free me up to really focus on the things that I really want to do. And so that's what you have to do sometimes. Sometimes you have to just stop, stop for a moment, pause, and then reflect, and then, take action. And you said that, kind of, I'll even say, articulate your value. So articulate what it is that you want to accomplish, want to have, and then work into it, right? Get the skill set, the strategy, put that in place to make that happen. And it doesn't have to be done tomorrow. Like me, I was one of those ones like, oh yeah, if I can't just get it done quick, push of a button type thing, is like, oh, I don't want to do it. And no, some things you do need to reflect, and you really need to think about, you need to hone those skills. You need to really tap in to be the best at that thing. And so that's where I'm at. So thinking about, my sister, in memory of her, author and poet Soul Truth, she wrote a book, Dreams Deferred. And that book made me start to think, what dreams have I deferred? And then to want to encourage other women to think about any dreams that they've delayed, and then to encourage them to act. Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a dream deferred? And if so, what have you done about it?
I've never had a dream deferred. I am intentional about taking immediate action. I don't dawdle. I don't pause. I don't wait. I am an incremental action taker. So I'm not going to jump off the cliff. I'd take 2 steps to the left. Let's see how the wind's blowing over here. I take 2 steps to the right, but I'm moving. I'm on the path. I'm walking. And so I'm grateful, right, that I don't have many regrets in life. There are no dreams that are deferred. I am so committed to the discipline of doing the work, and that has taken me far in my life and career.
That's awesome. That's great. And so now I want to kind of get into the money piece, right? So you talked about making more money. And so this is going to be in our bonus section, which is on wealth, right? So I'm continuing to focus on wealth. It's a conversation I started in July. And as I'm talking to different people, and then even knowing about myself, it's something that we definitely need to continue having a conversation about, educating ourselves and one another, and, and taking steps to build that wealth, that generational wealth. So I'm going to ask you several questions at the same time. So how do you define wealth? What is the relevance of wealth building? And what are some strategies you teach to make more money?
So you'd like me to answer each of them in order?
No, however you want to answer.
Okay. So I define wealth as ease. For me, some of my top values are ease, autonomy. Ease and autonomy are probably the top 2. And for me, wealth is about lessened restrictions. It's so critical for me to be able to be in a fluid state, to not be tied down to anything, to not be beholden to anyone. About 4 years ago, I paid off about $17,000 in credit card debt in 10 months. I was drowning in credit card debt after living a very frivolous lifestyle in my late 20s and early 30s, and just was really out here wilding. And while I would, did pretty well for myself in terms of salary, I did not have any money at the end of the month. And wasn't really able to take care of myself and my responsibilities because of it. And so even though I was I was making, quote unquote, good money, I didn't have the freedom and flexibility with my money. And I didn't have any ease in my life because it was always pay your bills and then sit and wait till the next check.
Right.
And I'm so grateful that that's a season that I'm not in anymore. And so for me, wealth is really about the ease that I've created in my current lifestyle, the flexibility and autonomy that I have with my money now that I've paid off that debt and I don't have any credit card debt. I don't have any consumer debt. And that's something that I'm really grateful for because it allows a level of freedom and autonomy that really makes me feel wealthy every day. In terms of how women of color can strategize to make more money, particularly in their careers, one of the things that I invite my mentees into is to move away from any myths that might tell you that you can't make any money in particular industries. I think this is particularly true in the social services and education. So many professional women feel like they can't make money that they need to make to care for themselves or their families or to, save money or to build wealth in these professions, but that's flat out not true. I've helped my mentee Quiana, who has a degree in social work, gain a $32,000 salary increase through my Mentor Me Accelerator. I have teachers and educators in my programs who've earned $20,000 and $30,000 salary increases myself. And in addition to my full-time work with Mentor Me, I also work full-time in higher ed and I'm a six-figure earner. And so that's available to you. And I think that too often professional women, just don't see that as available to them. Maybe they don't know any women who are doing well for themselves in those industries and they think it's not available, but it absolutely is.
Yeah, and I actually could have used you X number of years ago when I graduated high school because I did go to college for social work. I was there and I'm like, you know what? I'm not really going to be able to make money unless I go and get my master's. And I wasn't interested in doing that. And so, what I'm doing today, it's not social work, but it's still within the same house, if you will, right? And so who knows where I would have been had I known you back then and, you used some of your strategy in that space. So very good. All right. So as we're beginning to wrap up, what would you like to leave our audience with?
I'm thrilled to have served as a guest on today's podcast, and I want to remind professional women that more is available to you, whether it's more life, more money, more abundance, more autonomy, more flexibility, more freedom in your work. It is available. Any limiting beliefs or thoughts or even experiences that you have that might be telling you that it's not available, I want to assure you that it is. And if you need help specifically in making more money and having more impact in your career, I invite you to join the Mentor Me Accelerator. I'm thrilled to serve as your mentor, to walk alongside you as you build out and implement and take real action on a career development plan that's designed with that's designed for who you are and how you desire to show up in the world.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And so, yeah, I will definitely have Ashley's information in the show notes. So make sure you check her out, go to her website, connect with her socially. And if you're at the point where you're wanting more, Ashley is who you want to talk to, right? Allow her to help you to earn, to get away from those limiting beliefs that you may have. And so Ashley AsShire, I thank you so much for lending your voice on an intimate conversation with women of color. And before we tap out, I do want to remind everyone to make sure that you subscribe, whether you're listening on your favorite podcast platform or you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe, share. I want to hear from you. Go to DenineLGarrett.com, leave a voice message or other message, And feel free to look at the other content. There's so much out there to learn from. And again, we have 2 back-to-back that's helping you and encouraging you to be your authentic self, to make more money, just to tap into going to that next level in your career or just in life in general, because the strategy that you use in your career, you can just use that in your day-to-day as well. So thank you so much for being a loyal guest, and for being a loyal audience. And until next time, I am your host, Deneen L. Garrett, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you.
You're